Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So we are about a month and a half away from the trade deadline, and there is a bunch of names out there getting floated that could potentially get traded. So Bleacher Report decided to cook up 5 bold predictions for the upcoming trade deadline. I thought we'd go through them. I am not seeing them yet. I'm reacting to them with you, and I'm going to give you kind of my in-depth take on whether I think the probability of that happening and do I think it actually is a good idea. So let's get into it. Love the good people over at Bleacher Report. 2024 5 bold predictions. Jake Allen to the LA Kings. The LA Kings are getting solid gold. Yeah, Cam Talbot's been good, but has kind of fallen off as well. Phoenix Copley obviously tore his goddamn ACL. So in looking at this, Jake Allen to the Montreal Canadiens. He's not playing that good. It goes on to say in the article, he has like a .901 save percentage, like 3.5 goals against. I don't know if you bank on Jake Allen to be your savior. They tried it with Korpisalo last year. He was very good with them. Did kind of shit the bed with the playoffs. In the playoffs, when looking at Jake Allen, I think the problem with this is that he has that one more year right there. $3.9 million, not just this year, next year on top. If I'm LA, am I willing to bet on a 33-year-old Jake Allen to play good down the stretch this year, as well as next year be worth that $3.9 million cap hit? Like Korpisalo was a rental, and they got Gavrikov in that trade. Betting on your number one trade deadline move being a Jake Allen trade, would I go out and do that? I don't know, but I think they will trade for some type of a goaltender. But if I'm LA, I'm not betting on a guy that has a ton of term left, if that makes sense. Don't hate that idea. If I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I'm finding someone to take on Jake Allen. Maybe they actually retain like 25%. I don't think they're going to retain 50%, almost $2 million next season as well. But if they can retain some money, I can maybe see it. But I don't think Jake Allen is the goalie that he was 2 to 3 years ago. And as a result, with that extra year, I don't know how likely that is to happening. Chris Tanev to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, he's 33 years old, unrestricted free agent. Toronto's defense has not looked that good this season. I really like this fit. I think Chris Tanev has been one of the better defensemen in the entire NHL. He has regressed a little bit this season, but I still think on a team like Toronto, he can really come in and fill that gap in terms of physical defensemen that they need. You look at it last year, it'd be pretty funny. If they got back-to-back at the deadline, got back-to-back brothers in the NHL in terms of Luke Schenn, Braden Schenn, and then Chris Tanev, Brandon Tanev. But when looking at a Chris Tanev, yeah, I think it's solid. I think in terms of the LTIR money, obviously John Klingberg's $4 million basically makes up for Tanev's 4.5. So that's not that big of a problem. The cap space, they have that through LTIR. I like this one. I would say that this is very likely. I don't think that they're going to go out and get like a Noah Hannafin, another Calgary Flame. Like, I don't think they're going to get an elite top pairing guy. But when looking at a Chris Tanev to slide into your top 4, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they got to do something soon because obviously they have shat the bed recently. And especially in the third period, it looks like they've absolutely folded when looking at a guy like Chris Tanev to get in there and kind of settle into the room and have a standard in there. I think would be a good idea. Number 3. John Gibson to the New Jersey Devils. Okay, again, $6.4 million till 2026, 2027. I think this is stupid. I think this is very stupid. Gibson isn't even playing good. They don't even mention his stats here, but he's not even playing that good on the Anaheim Ducks. $6.4 million the next 3 seasons after this. I think that's a horrible idea for the New Jersey Devils. I'm just going to say it. And if you're Anaheim, considering they nickel and dime to Trevor Zegras on extension, previous RFAs before Troy Terry, I don't think Pat Verbeek's going to retain money on that $6.4 million. So if you're New Jersey, I would rather them go out and get Jake Allen, who only has one more year after that at 3.9, which is still manageable backup money. 6.4, that makes him, I think he's like a top 7 or top 6 highest paid goalie in the entire NHL. I don't like that. Yes, the Dougie Hamilton LTIR, that is going to help them a lot. But when looking at this deal, if Gibson had only a year or 2 left on this deal, I would maybe consider it. But he's like 30 years old, 3 years left. Their goaltending has been horrible, but I think you maybe buy low on a cheaper guy that's either expiring at the end of this year or 2 years from now, because this season has kind of been a disaster for the New Jersey Devils. Not saying you punt on a season given their core, but if Jack Hughes continues to be out, they're out of the playoff race. I can't see them making a desperation move for a guy that has 3 more years left. I think that's panic mode. I think that would be very bad by Fitzgerald if they end up doing that. They would have to get him for like basically nothing, which I don't think teams are gonna have to give up that much for John Gibson because he's making so much. Okay, Colorado adds Elias Lindholm. This is a fantastic deal. This one I actually really like. I think the Avalanche got to do something to address their second line center. Ryan Johansson has not been it. He has like 15 points in 40 games. It's been very bad in terms of what they expected for him coming in. Getting a guy like Lindholm, he's not what we thought 2 years ago when he had like 40 and 40. He was obviously just playing with Gaudreau and Tkachuk, who were like top 5 wingers in the entire NHL that year. When looking at a guy like Lindholm to come in and fill, as they mentioned, that Nazem Kadri role, I think that could be very good. Last year, they kind of punted on the season in a sense where they had Landeskog out, weren't sure if he was going to return. Their only deadline move was like Lars Eller, who doesn't really move the needle at all. So in looking at that, I think this year they go more all in at the deadline like last year, considering Landeskog might actually come back for the playoffs, apparently. I would be shocked if that happens, I'm not going to lie. But Lindholm only making $4.9 million. That for your second line center would be very, very impressive. I don't get why they're saying unwilling to part with their 2024 first rounder. I get they don't have a second or a third rounder, but this core is win now. Like what are we waiting for? And also last year they had 2 first. They ended up having 2 first rounders because they traded Newhook. So trade that 2024 first round pick. They were my Stanley Cup pick, so they better be going all in. And then lastly, Pittsburgh Penguins re-signed Jake Guentzel. I'm not sure how much of I guess they do that before the trade deadline just to make sure that he's re-signed instead of taking it up until the summer and maybe losing him for nothing. Let's read what they have to say on this. Yeah, he's only making $6 million right now, which is dirt cheap for what he's provided. He has 46 points in 42 games right now for them. I could see them locking him up on an 8-year deal. I don't think they'd want to give him an 8-year deal, but when looking at this Pittsburgh Penguins core, they're going to stink in 3 to 4 years regardless. You can trade Guentzel in 3 to 4 years once they go on the rebuild. Just lock him up on a long-term deal and get him at a reasonable cap hit because you're not going to really care about the back half of that contract. He's probably not going to be on your team, or he's going to be on the team mentoring the next generation of guys. So in looking at Jake Guentzel, if you said this 2 to 3 weeks ago when they were out of the playoff race, when they were like 500, I could maybe see it, but now that they're in the mix, I don't think you punt on the season when you have a core like the Pittsburgh Penguins that are so old. Maybe if it was like a New Jersey Devils and they're going to have multiple cracks at it, maybe you just dump the guy instead of giving him this long contract at 29 or 30 years old. But when looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins, to dump a guy like that, what are they going to do with a goddamn first-round pick in like prospects or even a first-round pick and a young roster player? That roster player is not going to turn into Jake Guentzel. That future first-round pick's probably not going to turn into Jake Guentzel. But those are 5 pretty bold predictions. Pittsburgh, I don't know how bold this one is. I really like this one. I think that's the perfect fit. That is the ideal fit. I think Joe Sakic, well, he's the president now, will get on the phone and make something like that happen. This is a big, big no. I hate it. This one's also very good. Get Chris Tanev. Maybe the Leafs will stop blowing leads. And then LA Kings bring in Jake Allen. I almost said Jack Campbell. When looking at that, it's interesting. I like the 2 deals. The Allen one, considering he has that extra year, is a little bit interesting. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? What do you think is going to happen at this year's deadline? And I'll be seeing you in the next one.